that.
Caleb, I've got a hot take that I know is going to make you mad.
Oh gosh. Okay.
And that is that I think, I've been thinking about this a little bit. I don't have it fully fleshed out, so there might be some holes.
Okay.
But I think that art is not, well, I'm going to say is not, should not be a simple matter of self-expression. Like when people talk about like, it doesn't matter, man, it's just your art. It's, as long as you're expressing yourself, it's art. No, that's stupid. Art should be about creating something beautiful. Or at least, yeah, I think I like that. I like that definition.
Let's reevaluate that. Is that a scab up there?
Okay, you were saying.
Hello, you scab. He can't talk. He's a robot.
I love that you're shouting at him.
Okay, now. I don't want to get into this art conversation while I'm playing, so let's wait until the raid. But let's just say that I don't completely agree with you.
2 seconds later.
I personally think that art is good. Art is bad. Art is subjective. Art is creative. Art is self-expressing.
But what does it mean? Like people always say like, I just need an outlet. I need a way to express, and this is how I express myself. What does that mean?
Okay.
Like what need is that satisfying? Like I feel like that's just yeah, like I just feel like that's a nonsense phrase that people use. Like it doesn't actually mean anything. Like, oh, I need to express myself. Like what do you mean you need to express yourself? Like, are you sharing ideas? Because I would argue a lot of art doesn't share idea, or a lot of what's called art doesn't communicate an idea.
I think when someone says that they're using it as in a way to express themselves, I really think that they mean they're using it as a way to, as a therapy. I think the true meaning behind somebody saying, like if they legitimately are trying to argue that it's a way for them to express themselves, is the same logic behind a musician writing a song because it's a way for them to express themselves, which doesn't really make a whole bunch of a difference because music is also an art form.
Yeah, but I would also say that I agree that music is an art form, but I would say that my point is actually confirmed when you look at music, because most music is made to be beautiful. Most. There are like weird movements where like people make like dissonant, bad sounding things to try and make a point, but that's exceedingly rare. Like most of the time when people want to express themselves with music, they do it in a way that they find beautiful. They use harmonies that work together and melodies that are consistent, and that, you know, they follow the traditional rules of the genre they're working in to make something that's pleasant to the audience. They might not be good at it, but that's their goal. Their goal is to create something beautiful. But like when it comes to like sculpting or painting or drawing is when that rule completely flies out the window and people can just freaking do whatever they want and claim that it's art and that it doesn't have to be beautiful.
Do you want my honest, true opinion?
Yeah.
I don't care. I really don't, because I learned very quickly after I started working on my senior project in school. For whatever reason, somebody says that they're wanting to make a piece of art, whether it's just I'm bored, I'm stressed, I want to express myself, someone's paying me to do this.
Caleb.
I'm doing it to fuel my dopamine by followers and likes on Instagram. I don't care. If it makes you happy, do it.
Well, yeah, I don't have a problem with people doing things. It's trying to shoehorn it into a specific category.
Okay,
which is art.
I need an example. Like, do you have an example?
So
not one that you make up, but just like one. Like, obviously, something happened in the last
Well,
48
okay,
hours, and you've been
so-
holding on to this.
So I get the best example that I can think of, and I'll even use a borderline example to make it more interesting. Like I won't even use my best case argument. The people like the spray paint artists on Instagram that do planets.
You want red and white. Now crumple up some newspaper. Just swipe, swipe, swipe. Shusha. Now let's add a black shadow. Cover everything in black. Poop out some red stars. Shine right here. And shisha. That's freaking dope.
Some navy blue and some gold. Now if I grab the little weekly and crumple it up, just swipe, 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 and that'll give us some texture. Give it a little highlight round here, with the black coming with a shadow, just curving it around. First I'm going to start with some black across the top part here. Flick off the big bits, and then the rest we'll just flick on the page for some stars. Little shine, and boom. Oh, yes.
Specifically the planet artists. I'm not talking about people can do some crazy, really cool, beautiful things with
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
where they just do bowls, and all it is like people put in requests, and all they're doing is requesting different colors for the exact same piece.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that should fall under the category of art,
Why?
because it's not. Well, hang on. Let me rephrase that. If art is just a matter of expressing yourself, that should not be considered art.
Okay, let me ask you this. Why are you so hung up on this definition of art being a way for you to express yourself?
That's what I hear most often, like as a blanket justification for doing anything.
Okay, but
It's like people could literally, freaking throw rocks into sand, take pictures of the crater it makes, and someone would defend them saying they're expressing themselves.
okay.
And I just think that's stupid.
So let me ask you this. Are you saying that the way that you've heard this is that art is being used as a verb? Because that's how I'm hearing it. It is a
No,
way for
not that it's
someone to
being used as a
express
verb.
themselves.
I think there should be a stricter definition on what's actually considered art.
I disagree. I
Because
think it should
when
be
it's-
left open-ended and vague.
Well, but if you have it
Art
too
should-
open-ended and vague, it's meaningless. Like for it to have meaning, it has to have some kind of like definition to it. Otherwise, I'm a flangel puss, and you are too. We're all
What?
flangel pusses.
What is that?
Exactly. It doesn't mean anything because a flangel puss isn't a defined thing that we can agree on. So that's not it's not a useful category.
Are we still talking about art? Or
Yes.
did you just-
I'm saying I don't
Are you using the word phalangopus as a metaphor to the definition of art, or did you make that up on spot to? I don't know.
I made it up on the spot. What I'm getting at is that when people talk about art as this like nebulous thing that anything can fall under, then it's a pointless category. Like it loses the definition, like calling something art loses all of its meaning when there's no definition. Howdy, Editing Carson here. Just wanted to jump in and clarify a couple things that I don't think I said very well in this. And to do that, I think we need to answer two questions. The first one is, why do people try and claim that something's art or that they're an artist? I would say that being called art is an indication of value. For example, it seems wrong, I think most people would agree, to minimize the painting on the Sistine Chapel as just a simple ceiling decoration. It's obviously a work of art. But for something, for that claim to have any value or to indicate value, it needs to have some kind of requirements. Otherwise, it's meaningless. It's kind of like what's going on with podcasts right now. Like, there's so many podcasts out there that claiming that you have a podcast or that what you do is podcasting is kind of lame, and it doesn't mean anything anymore. So for a descriptor to indicate value, it's got to have some kind of requirement along with it. So the second question would be, what are those requirements for art? I think this is what I was getting at whenever I was saying that I think that just saying that art is self-expression isn't sufficient, because I don't think it meets the requirements. And I propose there's 3 requirements. Number 1, it must consist of mostly intentional human decisions. And I choose that wording very carefully. This would invalidate art that is purely chance-based. The guys that's dropping buckets of sand and calling that a sculpture. No, not really, because there wasn't any intention in that you intentionally stack the sand things and let it fall, but the location of those sand grains is mostly chance. So I'd say that fails the first criteria. I also mentioned that it's human decisions because for it to be art, it needs to come from a human. It tends to be the same people that would justify splattering paint on a canvas as art, would say that AI art isn't real art because, a person didn't make it. I would argue that someone splattering paint on a canvas purely randomly isn't making it. Like, they're making it, but there's no human thought behind it other than a little yellow over here and a little blue over here. I'd say most of the art, which is why I use the word mostly, is just random chance. My second criteria, and this one's a little controversial, but I think you'll agree if you give me a chance, is it must attempt to be beautiful. I say attempt just to not rule out people with little skill. Like, you don't have to be good at creating art to create art. But I think you should attempt to be beautiful. And by beautiful, I don't mean necessarily pleasing. There's plenty of art that is done for, to bring awareness to human rights issues that isn't strictly pretty, but if you examine it, it is beautiful in that it follows artistic patterns. And obviously this is going to be flavored by culture, but I think it has to converge on some transcendent beauty. And as I say in the video, I think this is a given in music. No one listens to dissonant, crappy music that they think sounds bad. It's not just random. No one's just like sitting down at the keyboard going bang, 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 bang. It's my new song. It's available on Apple, iTunes, and Spotify. Okay, and my third criteria is that it has to be novel. And this one's more of a gradient rather than like a specific yes or no. But the more novel a piece of art is, I think the more value we tend to give it. So take an original song, a parody of that song, and then a cover of that song, okay? So the original song has a novel melody, novel instrumentation, and novel lyrics. The parody uses the same melody, but it's got novel lyrics and novel instrumentation. A cover, though, only has novel instrumentation. It's using the same lyrics and the same melody. I think that we tend to value those in that order. Like, if someone puts out a brand new song, no one's ever heard before, that's got so much more value than someone who hears that song and says, I'm going to play that and record it and put it out. This is a lot less valuable. So to me, this would invalidate our friends that make spray paint planet art. Not that it's not beautiful. It's trying to be beautiful, but it's not novel. If your Etsy shop looks like this, you're not exactly creating novel artwork. You're changing small variables each time, like color or slightly altering the method. But this is, I would say that that's more akin to a doodle. The pieces they contain very little variation and few novel ideas. I think this is why people lose interest in bands that always sound the same. Either they sound the same all throughout their discography, or they just, every single song sounds the same, kind of like AC/DC. There's people that love AC/DC because they love that sound, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'd say people have, in general, less respect for AC/DC than they do Queen, or why people don't like it when bands sell out and just do whatever's popular for the radio. Like they take an original sound, original character that their music had, and then they just morph it into whatever's going to get them on Octane. I'm looking at you, Wage War. Looking at you. I don't know why I'm thinking about this, or why I felt like I needed to write out notes and actually formulate this, but this is my art, man. Shut up.
I'm just expressing myself.
Would you say that calling Van Gogh's Starry Night a piece of art is devaluing it? Then?
Not devaluing it, but it doesn't add any, like it.
I honestly think it's a moot point.
I mean, it's really not that important.
I think you're looking way too deep into this.
Well, not necessarily way too deep. It's just that people claim art about a lot of stuff, and it's important to artists. Artists always claim like, oh, this is just my art. Like, I was listening to a podcast that a couple of the Hermitcraft people do, and they were like, I don't like to think that we make content. I like to think that we make art. Like, what? So, all right, so the category of, like, is art just anything that you make? Is supper art?
Yes.
When I wipe my butt, am I creating art?
No, you're not creating anything. If anything,
I'm creating something.
No, you're not. You're removing feces from your bum hole.
Okay, and when I paint, I'm removing pigment from a brush. What's the difference?
You're adding it to a canvas.
Well, why is that not art?
Why is wiping your ass not art?
Yes. My point is that it needs to have a I agree that it's not.
When you wipe your ass, you're not creating anything.
I agree with you. I'm just saying, the way that you said it should be left open and vague, then you're not there. You can't defend that it's not art.
Where are we going right now?
To extract.
Okay. I'm gonna give you my definition of art.
Okay.
And I'm saying this like I don't follow this to a T, because art is the... Hang on a minute.